proud, on behalf of the Niagara Foundation, to warmly welcome you to this inauguration dinner of the International Conference of the Gülen Movement. So what a wonderful opportunity that all of you have come here to Chicago to discuss a movement and hopefully, by those discussions, educate, and that knowledge will be powerful enough to overcome fears that cause us to make bad decisions sometimes, or decisions that don't benefit the common good. So I wish all of the speakers the very best, and all of those who will be attending this conference, and I hope we will continue to have open minds and open dialogue and make the world a better place for all of our children.
On behalf of the conference organizers, organizing committee, and Niagara Foundation, I would like to welcome you to the International Conference on the Gülen Movement. The idea behind proposing a conference on the Gülen Movement is no different than our past activities and our vision, which is related to our core values of understanding, respect, and compassion. We feel privileged to help organize this conference, where we are to explore the faith-based civic movement known as Gülen Movement. In the last decade, this Turkish-born, non-hierarchical, service-oriented, volunteer of global associations of like-minded people devoted to common good has become a model studied by academics worldwide. This international conference has been designed to explore the movement from a social sciences and humanities perspective in order to provide a clearer picture of what the movement participants support and believe. While academicians prefer to refer to this social phenomenon as the Gülen movement, for the brevity of the term Mr. Fethullah Gülen, the source of inspiration for many participants in the movement prefers to Turkish phrase, Gönüllüler Hareketi, or the movement of the volunteers. Many Turkish participants in the movement refer to it as hizmet, which means service. The panels are therefore identified using the term hizmet movement. This conference examines the spiritual, modern, civic, sociological, and intellectual perspectives of Mr. Gülen, the participants in the movement that he helped originate, as well as the movement as a whole. Thank you all for coming. Peace be with you.
Hoş geldiniz, selamat datang, ahlan ve sahlan, hoş amadid, bienvenue, bienvenidos, bienvenuti, willkommen, welcome, welcome. This is my feeble attempt to try to represent just a small percentage of the different languages and cultures represented in this room here tonight, from which we have such richness being brought to this conference. My name, as Allison said, is Scott Alexander, and it's my privilege and blessing this evening to welcome you on behalf of the conference's editorial board. As many of you know, M. Fethullah Gülen, the figure who has been the inspiring force at the center of the international spiritual revival and service movement known to many of us as Hizmet, is not particularly happy with the phrase Gülen movement. This is because, in the teachings of Mr. Gülen, the key to offering true service to God and humanity is to decenter the self and relativize the ego, so that the values which draw us into a deeper relationship with God and one another begin to define who we are precisely by displacing the selfish impulses which alienate us from God and from one another. Thus, to refer to a movement with this commitment at its spiritual heart, by reference to any single person's name, however inspiring, may seem counterintuitive. This said, however, I would like to offer an important defense of the nomenclature Gülen movement, at least up until now. It has helped those of us outside the movement learn about its nature and vision more openly and more clearly. Also, it has gifted so many of us with the knowledge of a quintessential Muslim leader, at a time when the world needs to celebrate such leaders and not allow their light to be, quote, hidden under a bushel, unquote, to use a phrase from the gospel of Jesus Christ. This conference, as many of you know, is designed to take an appreciative but critical analytical look at the movement and its many global manifestations. And I know we are all very excited about the learning opportunities set to transpire over the next couple of days, God willing. Some of you may be interested in the process by which these papers were chosen. There were about 165 abstracts submitted that went through a very rigorous peer review process. I know it was rigorous because I was involved in that process, and the process that was set up by Niagara was an exceedingly good one. We sifted through these abstracts and in short came up with 21 papers of the highest quality. And this work is really thanks to all my colleagues on the editorial board, and I just want to mention them. They're in your program with pictures, for the most part, in living color with just a few exceptions. Professor Leonard Swidler, Professor Sharif Bassiouni, Professor Ihsan Yilmaz, Professor John Esposito, from whom we'll be hearing this evening, Professor Kemal Karpat, Professor Marcia Hermanson, Professor Martin Forward, Professor Richard Rosengarten, and Professor Zeki Saritoprak. In closing, let me once again, on behalf of the editorial board, join my voice with that of Sharif Soidan and the rest of the incredibly hard-working Niagara staff in welcoming you all here this evening and this weekend. May the God of all grace and knowledge bless what we do, and may it be for God's greater glory. Amen.